Welcome everybody to Between Two Speakers, where we chat about speaking. I'm Randy Ford. I'm a writer and storytelling strategist with First Story Strategies.
And I'm Marianna Swallow. I'm a professional public speaking coach, and I also teach business and professional speaking at Loyola University in Chicago. And I'm really excited about today's topic because I want to share this with all my clients and all my students. Today, we are talking about staying within your time. If you're given a time limit, how do you stay within it? More importantly, how do you get ready to stay within it? And Randy has some excellent tips to share with us. So Randy, what would you like to share with us today?
The first thing really is to know your time, know what your time limits are, but also know how you are going to be held to that time. So if you're speaking somewhere and if it's possible to ask the organizer, hey, from the podium, is there a clock visible? Are you going to have a countdown clock? Are you some kind of visual cues to let me know where I am on my time? Do you need me to wear a watch? What am I going to do to make sure that I keep your program going and that I'm not taking advantage of the audience's time? Because you have this time allotted and you want to take the right amount. So knowing upfront, if you don't want to get 20 into your presentation and realize that you have no way to measure the 20 minutes.
Yeah, that's a great tip because even though people are told, yeah, you've got a 20-minute slot or a 10-minute slot, I see people skip this part of the preparation. They'll write their notes, they'll print out their PowerPoints, they'll say, oh, I'm going to say this on my PowerPoint, but they really don't think about how they're going to stay within that time limit and they just kind of hope it works out. And the biggest novice move of all, and I'm sure you're familiar with this, is they don't worry if it's going to work out. And when it's time, they just keep talking and talking and talking, and they go over the break. And then it's the top of the hour, and that next speaker needs to be in that room if it's something like a conference or a series.
Right. And if you were a presenter and you don't have eyes on a clock, you're the only person in the room who doesn't, because everybody else has their phone there. They know when it's supposed to wrap up. And you remember when the teacher would say, the bell doesn't dismiss you, I dismiss you. Well,
Right.
bell went off. We knew it was up. Learn anything else after that.
Right.
So you see somebody hit, they were supposed to talk till 11:45. When it hits 11:50, you're checked out as an audience member, no matter how engaging they are, because we're
Absolutely. Absolutely. And that's the other thing, the other reason why I think it's important to pay attention to time, especially if you're part of a day or a series or a conference, is your audience has other places to be, things to do. They're hungry. They want coffee. I don't know if you've been at conferences like I have where the coffee's gone at 11 a.m. So they want to get out there and get their last cup of coffee. Cookies come out at 2. I remember a conference I presented at for years in Wisconsin. The cookies were only out from 2 to 3. And if you didn't get your cookie before 3, good luck. So they want that stuff. They need their breaks.
And speaking of the timing, and getting to it, one of the biggest mistakes that I see is people who get up and open with a lot of chit chat,
Yes.
instead of just getting to the point. You have only very few seconds to let your audience know whether they care about this next 20 minutes or
Right.
what. And you have to do that. And the pitfalls that I think are just natural to us, but that can cause problems, are even saying, good morning, how are you? Oh, we can do better. How are you really? That has taken up 15 seconds, that 15 seconds that you had for the first impression, where you really need to jump into it and show, I'm in charge here. This is what I've got for you, and this is what we're going to do. You don't need to hear good morning. They know what time of day it is. And if you're the fourth speaker at a conference, for example, they've already been told good morning 3 times.
Right. Or the person who introduced you already said good morning.
Exactly.
And
Exactly.
yeah, so cut the chit chat, get to it. It's the way I like to frame this for my students is it's your stage, take it. And you're absolutely right. That's the time to show your audience you're in control and get going.
Yeah. And I don't even like when people, I'm not a fan of the, oh, we can do better than that, how are you today thing. As an audience member, I'm like, this is on you to present the energy level. Don't drag me into this yet. You need to win me over. And I know we don't go into it that harshly necessarily,
Right.
but that's how I kind of feel about it.
Well, and I want to underscore that it is on the speaker to bring the energy and keep the audience engaged. Because here's my flip side of it. And you're right. We usually don't go in as an audience member with that nasty of a mindset, like, oh, come on, buddy. But what bothers me, and I've seen musicians do this as well as speakers, is that come on, everybody, get up. Oh, come on, you can do better. You don't know what's going on with your audience in their minds that day. And this person who, just woke up and found out that their kid is sick and had to stay home from school, or their mother-in-law just went into the hospital, they're not thinking, oh, I want to go to a conference and rah rah today. They might need to just listen and learn, and that's perfectly fine.
Yeah, absolutely. And then the other thing that I would think, and it may sound like a given, is to practice. And so to know your presentation, you don't have to
Hmm.
over practice. I think this is actually where some people get into the problem we were talking about earlier about not paying attention to their time. They will practice so much that they know, oh, I have 20 minutes. I've practiced it 8 times and it's 19 minutes.
Hmm.
So that's well, the energy is going to be different in the room. So really, in your notes, it is great to have a couple of time markers, basically, and say,
Hmm.
okay, 10-minute mark, I need to be around here. And if I'm not on track for that, then I need to adjust my timing. But then I think the most
Yeah.
important thing is because if you get to that and see that you need to adjust your timing, I
Hmm.
think the natural instinct we all have is to just start talking faster and get through the material faster. And that's really not going to work. Really, the best thing I find, and I'm curious what you think,
Hmm.
to have your last 60 seconds mapped out. You know what you
Hmm.
want to close with and get to it.
Absolutely. Yeah, I agree. It's two things I always tell my students are, if there's two things that you do have memorized or close to memorized, are your beginning and your closing, your opening and your closing. Because that's not only your two strongest points, that's where you start, that's where you end. But to your point, Randy, if you're at minute 19 and you're watching the clock, or someone's giving you a signal that you need to wrap it up, then you need to go to that closing, not finish your last thought, not finish saying what you were saying about the such and such example. You need to say, okay, that's it for me, and then do your closing and
Yeah.
just get to it. Um, Nobody ever wished a presentation went longer. Maybe there's a few, I can't think of one. But I always tell my audience, if you have a 30-minute slot, plan for 20. Because a minute ago you mentioned the energy that, and you're absolutely right. You might practice on your own and go, oh, I have 18 minutes, I'm fine. Or I did it in 18 minutes, I'm fine. But you're right. When you're with a crowd, it's different. And even these days on Zoom, it's different because you have other people on the other end, and they might have questions. There might be a technical difficulty. There might be something that delays your speech for whatever reason. So it's really important to have that buffer so that if you wrap early, fine. But if you go over, that's not really forgivable.
Yeah, if you have really spent time making that last 1 minute or the close of your presentation perfect,
Hmm.
you want to get it within that time. You don't want to be doing that while people are thinking about if they can get out there to have that cookie that Mayor is really worried is going to disappear. A friend of ours and a great storytelling coach, Scott Whitehair, has
Hmm.
a good way to describe this. And in storytelling shows that he produces, he'll give the storyteller a 1 minute sign to start wrapping up. And the way he describes it is, if you've taken us on a beautiful story through the woods, now you have 1 minute to get us back out of the woods. And so I kind of think about that metaphor sometimes when I'm
Hmm.
starting to think about how to wind up. But I think if people will start to think about those three things, knowing the time and how to keep track of it, getting right to the point. On that one, you mentioned Zoom. Right now, you can burn a lot of your time that you have to capture audience talking about whether you're muted or unmuted, or, oh, these
Right.
Zoom days, or, oh, I feel whatever, I hope you can see me okay. That could take up all of the time that people have to actually get the impression of you. And
Right.
then practice with the time to make sure you know where you need to hit at what points.
Absolutely, completely agree. Thank you for sharing these tips with us. They're valuable. I'm going to be sharing this video with my clients ASAP. So thanks for sharing your knowledge, Randy. This was a great conversation, and I'm glad we're able to share this with everyone.
Yeah, thanks everybody for joining us again. Two speakers. I'm Randy Ford.
I'm Marianna Swallow. We'll see you next time. Bye bye.